In the pitch-black sky over the Red Sea, a Shad 136 loitering munition is flying low and slow, hunting for a target. It is a crude, terrifyingly simple weapon, essentially a flying lawnmower engine strapped to 80 pounds of high explosives. It costs roughly $20,000 to build. In the crosshairs of this cheap, disposable suicide drone is an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, a $2 billion apex predator of the United States Navy. To defend itself, the destroyer's Aegis combat system automatically calculates a firing solution and launches a Standard Missile-2 SM-2 interceptor. The SM-2 erupts from the vertical launch silo in a pillar of fire, accelerates to Mach 3 and obliterates the drone in a spectacular mid-air explosion. It is a flawless tactical victory, but it is a catastrophic strategic defeat. The United States Navy just spent $2.1 million of taxpayer money to shoot down a $20,000 remote-controlled toy. This is the terrifying, unsustainable mathematics of modern naval warfare. For decades, the U.S. Navy has operated on the assumption that any threat to a carrier strike group would be a high-end, supersonic anti-ship cruise missile fired by a near-peer adversary like Russia or China. They built their defensive shield around highly advanced, obscenely expensive kinetic interceptors. But the battlefield has fundamentally changed. As demonstrated by the Houthi forces in the Red Sea and Iranian proxies across the Middle East, the new threat is the swarm. Adversaries are mass-producing cheap, slow, commercially available drones and launching them in massive waves. The strategy is not necessarily to sink an American destroyer. The strategy is to bleed its magazines dry. A destroyer only carries 96 vertical launch cells. If an enemy launches 100 cheap drones, the ship will run out of multi-million-dollar missiles, leaving it completely defenseless against the actual high-end cruise missiles that follow. The Navy realized they were trapped on the wrong side of the cost exchange curve. They needed a weapon with an infinitely deep magazine, a weapon where the cost per shot was measured in pennies, not millions. They needed a weapon that traveled at the speed of light. In this deep dive documentary, we are going to bypass the science fiction movies and dissect the brutal physical reality of directed energy weapons. We will explore the anatomy of the HELIOS system currently mounted on the USS Preble. We will break down the complex physics of fiber solid-state lasers and explain exactly how you burn a hole through a drone traveling at 100 miles per hour. But we will also expose the ugly, unclassified truths that the recruitment brochures ignore. The crippling limitations of dwell time, the atmospheric nightmare of thermal blooming in salt air, and the massive electrical engineering required to keep a laser from melting its own optics. This is the unvarnished story of the Navy's desperate race to deploy a weapon of light before the fleet runs out of missiles. To understand how a naval laser works, you must first forget everything you have seen in Star Wars. A military-grade laser does not fire bright green or red bolts of light accompanied by a pew-pew sound effect. The beam is entirely invisible to the human eye, operating in the near-infrared spectrum, and it does not blow things up instantly upon contact. The destructive mechanism of a high-energy laser is pure, concentrated, relentless thermal energy. It is essentially a highly refined, technologically advanced magnifying glass focusing sunlight onto an ant. The system currently leading this revolution is the high-energy laser with integrated optical-dazzler and surveillance, or HELIOS, developed by Lockheed Martin. Mounted on the forward deck of the USS Preble, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, HELIOS is not a standalone science experiment bolted to the deck. It is a fully integrated weapon. It plugs directly into the ship's Aegis combat system, meaning the same radar that tracks an incoming ballistic missile can seamlessly hand off a low-flying drone target to the laser. The Helios is a 60 kilowatt class solid-state fiber laser. This represents a massive leap forward in laser technology. During the Cold War, the military experimented with chemical lasers, massive, highly toxic, dangerous systems that mixed volatile chemicals to generate a beam. They were far too dangerous and bulky to put on a pitching warship. A fiber laser works entirely differently. It uses electricity from the ship's generators to excite specialized diodes, generating light. This light is pumped into miles of highly specialized, rare earth-doped fiber optic cables coiled inside the weapon. As the light bounces back and forth inside these fibers, it becomes highly concentrated and aligned, a process called stimulated emission. The individual beams from multiple fibers are then combined into a single, perfectly coherent, incredibly powerful beam of invisible light that is directed out through a complex arrangement of mirrors and focusing lenses in the turret. When Helios fires at an incoming drone, the process is silent and lethal. The beam strikes the target and immediately begins to transfer extreme thermal energy. The goal is to cause structural failure. If the drone is made of plastic or fiberglass, the laser melts a hole through the wing, destroying its aerodynamic lift, and the drone plummets into the sea. If the drone is metallic, the laser burns through the casing and incinerates the delicate flight control computers or detonates the fuel tank or the warhead itself. This is what the Navy calls a hard kill. But Helios has a secondary, equally vital function hidden in its acronym, the Optical-dazzler. At lower power settings, the system can act as a non-lethal deterrent against manned threats. If an Iranian fast-attack swarm boat approaches the destroyer aggressively, Helios can shine a low-power, dazzling beam directly into the optical sensors of the boat or the eyes of the crew, temporarily blinding them and forcing them to turn away without firing a shot. A soft kill that avoids escalating an international incident into a shooting war. The tactical advantages of Helios are staggering. The most obvious is the cost curve. Firing a 60 kilowatt laser for 5 seconds requires a specific amount of electricity generated by the ship's gas turbine engines. The cost of that diesel fuel translates to roughly $1 to maybe $10 per shot. Compare that to a $2 million SM-2 missile. The Navy can fire Helios tens of thousands of times for the price of a single kinetic interceptor. Secondly, the magazine is infinitely deep. As long as the destroyer has diesel fuel in its bunkers to run the generators, it has ammunition. It does not need to return to a friendly port to undergo a complex, time-consuming vertical launch cell reloading procedure. Finally, the speed of engagement is absolute. A kinetic missile takes time to accelerate and cross the distance to the target, during which the target can maneuver. A laser beam travels at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. By the time the target is painted by the beam, the energy is already burning through its hull. There is no leading the target, no calculating intercept geometry. You point and you burn. However, the military-industrial complex loves to market directed energy as a flawless magic wand. The physical, brutal reality of operating a laser in a maritime environment is fraught with severe, almost crippling engineering limitations that the Navy is still struggling to overcome. The first major hurdle is a concept known as dwell time. Because a laser does not rely on kinetic impact or high explosives, it does not destroy a target instantly. It must hold the beam perfectly steady on a specific, vulnerable spot on the target for a sustained period, several seconds, depending on the material and the range, to generate enough heat to cause structural failure. This sounds simple until you apply physics. Imagine standing on the deck of a destroyer pitching and rolling 15 degrees in heavy seas. Trying to hold a laser pointer perfectly still on a drone the size of a lawnmower that is performing evasive maneuvers 3 miles away while traveling at 100 miles per hour. The tracking and targeting gimbals required to compensate for the ship's violent motion and keep the beam perfectly locked onto a specific square inch of a moving target are some of the most complex, highly classified mechanical and software engineering feats on the planet. If the beam wanders off the target for even a fraction of a second, the target cools down, and the dwell time must start over. But even with perfect tracking, the Navy faces an enemy that cannot be engineered away: the atmosphere. A laser beam is just concentrated light, and light interacts with the medium it travels through. When you fire a laser across the ocean, the beam must punch through salt spray, high humidity, fog, and rain. These particles absorb and scatter the laser's energy, drastically reducing its effective range and lethal power. This phenomenon is known as attenuation. Furthermore, as the high-energy beam passes through the air, it heats the air molecules in its path. This heated air expands, changing its refractive index and acting like a lens that literally bends and unfocuses the laser beam itself, a catastrophic effect known as thermal blooming. In a pristine, dry desert test range, a laser might be lethal at 10 miles. On a humid, foggy morning in the Persian Gulf, that same laser might struggle to burn through a drone at 2 miles. The Navy is heavily investing in adaptive optics, mirrors that rapidly change shape thousands of times a second to compensate for atmospheric distortion. But the fundamental physical reality remains: lasers do not work well in bad weather. If an adversary launches a drone swarm during a heavy rainstorm, HELIOS is effectively useless, and the ship must revert to firing its expensive kinetic missiles. The final, and perhaps most limiting, factor is electrical power and thermal management. A 60-kilowatt laser requires a massive amount of electrical juice. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer was designed in the 1980s. Its electrical grid was built to run radars and air conditioning, not megawatt-class directed energy weapons. Integrating a system like HELIOS requires careful power management to ensure firing the weapon does not accidentally brown out the ship's critical radar systems. But power generation is only half the problem; the other half is heat. Fiber solid-state lasers are roughly 30 to 40% efficient. That means if you want to put 60 kilowatts of lethal energy onto a target, the weapon itself is generating roughly 100 kilowatts of waste heat internally. If you do not rapidly dissipate that heat, the delicate optical lenses will crack, the fiber cables will melt, and the $200 million weapon will destroy itself from the inside out in seconds. The cooling systems required to chill the laser are massive, heavy, and complex, utilizing chilled water loops and advanced heat exchangers. This thermal bottleneck severely limits how long the laser can fire continuously. In a saturation attack where 50 drones are swarming the ship, the laser must acquire a target, hold the beam for several seconds, destroy the target, and then rapidly slew to the next one. If the cooling system cannot keep up, the weapon will overheat and shut down automatically to protect itself, leaving the ship defenseless while the remaining drones close in. Because of these strict physical limitations, the necessity of extended dwell time, the blinding effects of bad weather, and the threat of overheating, Navy commanders are explicitly clear: HELIOS is not a replacement for kinetic missiles. It is an additional, highly specialized layer in the ship's defensive onion. It is the perfect, cheap weapon to silently eliminate the low-end, slow-moving drones, saving the precious multi-million-dollar SM-2 and SM-6 missiles for the high-end, supersonic anti-ship cruise missiles that the laser cannot burn through fast enough. But the Navy is not stopping at 60 kilowatts. The current deployment of Helios and the lower-powered Odin dazzling systems are essentially operational prototypes, gathering vital real-world atmospheric and targeting data to feed the next generation of weapons. The true goal is the High-Energy Laser Scaling Initiative, HELSI, which aims to push solid-state lasers to the 300 kilowatt and eventually the megawatt class. At 300 kilowatts, the dwell time required to destroy a drone drops from seconds to fractions of a second, allowing the system to rapidly swat dozens of drones out of the sky like flies. More importantly, at those extreme power levels, the laser transitions from a counter-drone weapon to a true countermissile weapon, capable of instantly burning through the hardened titanium nosecones of supersonic cruise missiles. However, putting a megawatt-class laser on a ship introduces a terrifying new set of engineering nightmares. A legacy Arleigh Burke destroyer simply cannot generate the electrical power required, nor can it handle the massive thermal load. This is the primary reason the Navy is aggressively developing the DDG-X Next Generation Guided Missile Destroyer program. These future ships are being designed from the keel up as integrated power systems, effectively operating as massive, floating nuclear or advanced gas turbine batteries. They will feature massive electrical reserves and colossal, integrated liquid cooling loops specifically designed to support the directed energy weapons of the future. The deployment of laser weapons on American destroyers represents a profound, paradigm-shifting moment in the history of naval warfare. For the first time since the invention of gunpowder, the Navy is fielding a weapon that does not rely on chemical explosives or kinetic impact to destroy the enemy. They have weaponized the electromagnetic spectrum itself. It is a desperate, brilliant technological leap driven by the grim economics of drone warfare. But it is not a magic shield. The men and women standing watch in the Combat Information Center of a destroyer know that while the laser is a revolutionary tool, their ultimate survival in a saturation attack still relies on the terrifying, chaotic mix of million-dollar missiles, the deafening roar of the Phalanx Gatling gun, and the brutal, unforgiving laws of physics. If this deep, unvarnished look into the forensic engineering of directed energy, the crippling realities of thermal blooming, and the desperate tactical math of drone warfare changed your perspective on the future of the Navy, I have a vital request for you. Please subscribe to the Tactical Chow channel. We refuse to read you sanitized public relations brochures. We dissect the mechanical grit, the terrifying physics, and the massive logistical nightmares that truly dictate global military survival. I would also highly appreciate it if you could hit that like button. It acts as the focused thermal energy that helps this documentary burn through the restrictive algorithm of YouTube and reach a wider audience of engineering and military history enthusiasts. Finally, leave a comment below. I want to know, do you believe directed energy weapons are the ultimate solution to the cheap drone swarm threat? Or will the physical limitations of bad weather and cooling systems always make lasers a secondary, unreliable backup to traditional missiles? Let the debate begin in the comments.